Welcome to the Sasquatch Says podcast, episode 10. Unfortunately, as you see, I don't have Callie next to me this time, but things are looking up because her internship does end tomorrow. So she will have much more free time. We'll be able to set up podcasts on days she is off. So that way we don't have to worry about whether or not the EMS gods are in her favor or not, because she won't have to be working and won't have to worry about it. So there's one more podcast where y'all got to deal with the possibility of her not being here or not. Moving forward after this one, if I say Callie is going to be here, she will be here. So there you go. That out of the way, we all know what we came here for. After 21 years, finally, Avalanche have won the Stanley Cup. Where were you? What happened? What were you doing? How long did it take you to regain your voice? Because for me, it was in my house. I was screaming. I was cussing. I was breaking every window within a 3-block radius. I couldn't control myself. I lost it. And it took me about 3 days to regain my voice. So please, down in the comments, let us know where you were, what happened, how you enjoyed it, how you've been enjoying it, if you are still enjoying it, as so many here in Denver are still to this day still enjoying that absolutely delicious victory in Game 6. Thankfully, we didn't go to Game 7. Sorry, Mama. I know you had tickets to go to Game 7, but I am not sorry that it didn't take 7 games for the Avs to bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. So, all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in. Between immediately dropping the cup, having it sent to the wrong address, as it happened with Gabriel Landeskog this morning, and Kadri's post-game interview telling everybody to kiss his hiney, I'm going to discuss my most hilarious and entertaining finals I've ever watched. This is thankfully the third time that I have been able to watch the Avalanche raise the cup since their inception. Yes, I am that old. I have watched them since day one. I have watched all 3 Stanley Cups go in the air, whether it be Sakic, Wall, or McKinnon raising it up first off. It doesn't matter. It's absolutely sweet every single time. And it has been so long so long. I told my boy Dylan, who we'll be talking with on Breaking Broncos after this episode, 30 minutes after this episode ends, we will be going Breaking Broncos with Dylan. So you'll get to hear him talk about it as well. But I told him it's been so long, I have done forgot the feeling of having that Stanley Cup in my town, in my city, and it is absolutely elating. I still my nephew, 10 years old, Weston, love you, bud. If you're watching, appreciate you. But he kept asking me, "What does it mean to you?" I really didn't have words to put to it, and I still really don't. Even afterwards, like, what does it mean to me? I mean, as a fan, I mean, really, what does it mean? I mean, I didn't fight for it. I mean, yeah, I support them, I cover them, I help them get to where they're getting in that aspect. But I wasn't Valerie Nichushkin playing on a broken foot. I wasn't Nazem Kadri playing with a broken hand or Andrew Cogliano playing with a broken hand. I was not that guy. So for me to try and formulate like what does this mean to me? I mean, it means my team's the best. That's the best way I can put it. I mean, I really don't work like a lot of fans do, where I feel like whatever the team accomplished is 100% my accomplishment too. I do have that differentiation. I'm just here to admire and enjoy and be entertained. And definitely, I was entertained. They did the Avalanche did absolutely everything they needed to do to make this as an entertaining an experience as it was a jubilant one. I know a lot of people had fears and doubts, especially after that Game 5 loss, but I never really lost it. Uh, Again, even in the games that the Avs lost, the two games that they lost in the finals and the two games they lost in the second round, there was never a point where I was just looking at it like, ooh, this is scary. If they lose this game, it's over. Or if they don't make a comeback and at least make a game of it, it's over. It was like every time was like, oh, okay, they lost one, but they'll run it back. They'll run it back and they'll get another one. And that was the beauty of this season, is that there was never a point where you just looked at them and they looked defeated. No matter what the situation was, it always looked like they knew they were the better team and they knew that they were going to win more games than the other guy. And so therefore there was never a panic that set in. There was never that panic like what happened with Tampa Bay in Game 6 at the end, where they just started committing penalty after penalty and freaking out and fighting and trying to get the Avalanche to panic. They just never would. No matter who the opponent was, no matter what the situation in the game, no matter what situation in the playoffs, whatever it was, the Avalanche never panicked. They have a different type of calm during the storm that you have to be a championship team. So, with that being said, again, there was so much to be entertained with. Whether it was Nazem Kadri coming out after 18 days off with a mangled hand that they said they didn't just take off weeks of recovery, but months of recovery. And the fact that he was barely able to grab a stick, but still was the guy that hit the overtime game winner in his return. He was still the guy that was all over the ice in the next two games after that, both the win and the loss that got them to that Stanley Cup, got them to Game 6. So all of those moments put together, and then you have the shenanigans after they win the cup. You have, again, Nazem Kadri telling the entire world to kiss his hiney, saying that he was a liability in the playoffs. Well, I think he's finally put that one to bed. That take has to fly, because the man not only was not a liability in the playoffs, he is a key cog into why the Avalanche were able to win the Stanley Cup. He was a legitimate Conn Smythe candidate, even with the injury, even with missing most of the Western Conference Finals. Kadri was so good when he was on the ice. I would legitimately put him in the top three. Just even with Cale Makar and Gabe Landeskog and all these other guys having absolutely monster Val Nichushkin's playoffs. I mean, all of these guys, I would put Kadri right there with them because of what he did when he was on the ice. Again, we all know what happened with the injury. It was dirty. It was nasty. Evander Kane, man, I feel sorry for that dude when the Avalanche see the Oilers or whatever team he ends up on. I'm assuming it'll be the Oilers again, but you never know. Things happen in free agency in the offseason, as we're about to see. So whenever the Avalanche run into Evander Kane again, I kind of feel sorry for the dude in the regular season. Like, there's not going to be any shenanigans that would happen in the playoffs, but in the regular season, in a game that probably is not going to mean much of anything, Evander Kane's going to get some for what he tried to do and did do in that series with the Avalanche. So look out, Evander Kane. That's all I got to say. So those are some of my favorite moments. I mean, the fact that the puck, or not the puck, the cup got sent to the wrong house. It was supposed to be sent to Gabriel Landeskog. Well, it got sent to his neighbors, who, again, man, if you are sent the wrong mail, it does not give you the right to open it. Because the part about this story that bugs me is that these guys opened it and thought it was okay for them to touch the Stanley Cup. Like, just because mail ends up on your doorstep, it's still a federal offense to open up somebody else's mail. I'm not saying that Gabe and them need to press charges or anything, but from what I heard is that these guys, it was a gay couple found it. That's why I say guys. But they found it, they opened it, and then started playing with the cup and like took pictures and like, hey, look what we got. Like, don't do that. I don't care what it is, let alone it being a priceless piece of memorabilia like the Stanley Cup. Like, what are you people doing? Like, that does not give you the right to open other people's mail just because it got delivered to your house. That's not the other person's fault. It got delivered to the wrong house. So don't be a douche. Just find out who it belongs to, and if you can, get a hold of them or get a hold of the company that delivered it and let them know they sent it to the wrong place. Like, this is insane to me about how people just have no wherewithal or just bare bones humanity, that when something is delivered to the wrong house, instead of being, a human and sending it to the right place, you just take it. Like, maybe I have a little bit of a bias to this because I've had several things stolen from me in the projects that I live in, because people are idiots and lazy and don't know the difference between 406 and 406X, but I digress. Just saying, like, it's just insane to me how people take things that aren't theirs. Like, I've never really understood that. I've never been a thief. I've never been able to understand thieves. Like, I just can't get it. But I'm not saying these guys are thieves, but again, if it's not your mail, just leave it alone. Especially if you end up realizing it's something really big and possibly expensive. Like, what would happen if they open that and then they jacked it up? It's not the Avalanche dropping it in front of millions on the ice. Okay, accident, but you pull it out. You're playing around with it and then, like, you destroy it. Say you're having some, this is obviously a rich neighborhood. You're having some excavations to put a pool in or something. You drop it and it ends up getting crushed. Then what are you going to do? Because you're an idiot that decided I was going to be cool and mess with somebody else's stuff. Like, just don't do that stupidity. But moving on from that, let's move on from that ridiculousness onto the most iconic moment. I think I've touched on it a little bit already. I'm going to go in deeper. Nazem Kadri scoring the game winner in overtime and doing it in such a way that it just confused everybody. Like, it was so smooth, so quick, happened so suddenly, and the puck just stuck perfectly between the net and the top bar and just sat there waiting for the refs to finally blow the whistle and the horn to go to end the game. That has got to be the perfect moment to sum up the Stanley Cup final. It has the grace and the beauty of the game that the two best teams playing it at its highest level have. At the same time, it's also the comical, just ridiculousness that was also a part of this Stanley Cup finals, such as the end, dropping the cup, Kadri's post-game interview. I mean, it all is encapsulated in that one moment when Kadri put it past Vaz and deposited it literally in the net right behind him, right by his ear. Like, there is no better moment that better encapsulates the profound insanity that was this Stanley Cup final. I mean, you had from the first game where it was back and forth. Who knows? It's the two best teams just going at it. Then game two, Avs blow out the Lightning. Game three, Lightning blow out the Avs. Game four, back to tight and crazy. Game five, Avs looking flat. Lightning dominate on the road. Then again, the Avs go out on the road where they had only lost one game. Like, think about that, people. The Avs lost one game on the road in the entire postseason, winning a Stanley Cup. Not because they got knocked out in the second round and only lost one game on the no. They lost one game on the road. Out of their four losses, one of them came on the road. I mean, it's just insane to me how do you do that as a franchise to be able to dominate like that in someone else's barn? That just goes to show you how great this Colorado Avalanche team is and will be for a very long time. Because as we stated earlier, there was multiple people, players that were eligible for the Conn Smythe that should have gotten the Conn Smythe. But just because Cale Makar is an otherworldly player, he was the one that walked away with it. It was just, I mean, it was kind of obvious. I think all of us can agree that Cale Makar belongs with the Conn Smythe. I mean, he did absolutely everything from the opening faceoff from game one of the playoffs until the final faceoff in the last 5 seconds of game 6 when they finally brought the cup home. It had to be Cale Makar. There is no real other choice, but there are legitimate guys you can make an argument for. Those are Kadri, hat trick, multiple game winners, OT game winner in the Stanley Cup Finals in his debut after an 18-day hiatus of having a broken hand. Like, all of those things going together makes him a viable candidate. Val Nichushkin, 9 goals, 11 points, playing defense otherworldly from his position of forward. Just a big, fast, nasty man that imposed his will from game 1 to the final game 6 in the finals. Like, those two guys, I would say, are at least in the conversation, and the captain, Gabriel Landeskog, is just right outside of them. So, yes, there are other viable options you could have chosen for the Conn Smythe, but really, without a doubt, it had to be Cale Makar. And I really don't think anybody can really argue successfully otherwise. So, next up, Avalanche are immediate favorites to win the Stanley Cup starting next year. Why do we do this? Because this is something I believe in. I believe that if you are the champion, until someone unseats you, you have to be the favorite. Like, unless it's a situation like the 2015 Broncos, where that team's about to get destroyed, Peyton Manning's walking out the door. Those are the exceptions to the rule. Those, I will say, yeah. In those instances, you're going to want to give the favorite to somebody else, because, I mean, who thought Trevor Siemian belonged to being the quarterback of the favorite team to win the Super Bowl? So, yes, obviously there are exceptions to this rule, but the majority of the time, this rule really holds weight. It's the fact that, again, they are the best team. They proved they were the best team in the league. They won the championship. So until somebody else deposes them, or like say they don't make the playoffs, then you can again give it to somebody else. But until that moment happens, until every possibility of them repeating is completely off the table, I believe you have to make them the favorite. Now, does that always make it a smart bet? No, obviously not. That's a very arbitrary rule that we're talking about. It's not something that I would suggest betting your money on literally in any way, shape, or form. It's not an informed decision. It's just how I feel. It's my opinion. And so, for all of you people that are talking about, oh, you can't just, well, no, not only is it just the fact of the arbitrariness of what I just said, but the fact that the Avalanche are pretty much going to bring back the majority of this team. And every core piece is coming back. Like, people can talk about the fact that McKinnon doesn't have a true long-term deal yet. It's going to happen, period. Stan Kroenke, Josh Kroenke, not letting that man out the building. Just like Cale Makar will be a lifelong Avalanche. Just as Captain Gabe Landeskog has, and always will be a lifetime Avalanche. Just like Bo Byram will probably never go anywhere. I mean, I would be surprised if Nichushkin gets away. Yes, he made himself a boatload of money, but the Avalanche have $25 million to play with this offseason. That's a lot of cap money in the NHL. If that's a lot of cap money in the NFL, imagine how much that is in the NHL. The Broncos had less than that this offseason and still were able to swing all the deals they were able to. And again, if you need more info, go check out the YouTube channel, Breaking Broncos Podcast. We got all the breakdowns of all the transactions that have happened. Plus, again, tonight, Dylan, me, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we will be here to talk about your Broncos. So if you don't know about those transactions, go on, learn about them, and then you'll understand why $25 million is an extreme amount of money in the NHL in free agency. So again, McKinnon's not going anywhere. I doubt Nichushkin gets out the door. I would be surprised if they let Kemper unless they were able to go out and sign somebody else that's better. And we will get into those guys here in a bit. But outside of that, I mean, really, Cogliano's maybe a bit of an iffy. I would be surprised if Lehkonen gets out the door. So all of the core pieces are coming back, plus a lot of these big time acquisitions that Sakic was able to make and is probably now put in every GM's phone in the NHL as scam likely. That's just, I mean, he's been, excuse me, I don't know where all that came out of. Sorry. But he has been fleecing folks to the point where they, again, most likely have him down as scam likely. So whether or not he's going to get deals done in the offseason is going to be something to watch. But in free agency, he doesn't have to worry about whether or not the other GMs pick up the phones. All he's got to do is get their agent to pick up the phone. So doesn't matter how the other GMs view him now. It's all about whether or not he can just get the deal struck. So with that being the case, and the fact that he has owners that are willing to give up any and everything, whether it comes to draft capital or just throwing cash at the problem, Sakic has the perfect job in the NHL. He has all the money to work with and all the leeway to get whatever it is he feels needs to be done to get done. And he's proven time and time again, when he feels something needs to be done, it needs to be done. And it proves to be the most prudent move that could have been made. So, let's go ahead and move on. To be the best, you have to beat the best. This is something that was talked about ad nauseum until the Avalanche came up against the Lightning in the finals. Even the Lightning popping off on their social media talking about, oh, the Avalanche haven't faced a real team yet. I bet you they think the Avalanche is a real team now. But the one thing I don't want to see is those in Avalanche country dogging on the Lightning like they were a bad team. This is a team that just went back-to-back champions. This is a team that just went to 3 straight Stanley Cups, winning 2 out of the 3. So this team is legit. Tampa was very good. Vaz actually had better numbers after all was said and done than both of the Colorado goalies. Vaz had more highlight reel saves. He had more highlight reel poke checks, and his defenders might have had some more highlight reel slap shots and things of that nature that they got off. But it doesn't matter when you have a team like the Avalanche that just find a way. There's a reason they now have that as a hashtag. It is just their mentality. That was just what happened. No matter what the Lightning did, the Avalanche always had a response. They always had an adjustment. Bednar was always one step ahead every single time. And it was absolutely a joy to watch. Tampa Bay should not hang its head, though. It is not like they just went, quiet into the night without so much as a whimper. They fought. They fought tooth and nail. I give all the credit in the world to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They made the Avalanche earn it, and that is exactly what the Avalanche did. They earned it every step of the way. And anybody that has anything to say otherwise is a damn lie. Plain and simple. So, now that we're got all that out of the way, talking about the finals and who's going to do what, where, what, and how, we're now going to talk about who's going to go where, what, and how. We're going to look at the Avalanche free agency outlook, who must they keep, who can walk, and the dream free agents that, well, you're only going to get mine. It would have been Callie's if it wasn't for the EMS gods being in our way, but you are going to get mine. So, when it comes to the Avalanche, they actually have a lot of unrestricted free agents. It's the reason why they have so much cap money to play with is just simply because, well, frankly, they got a lot of free agents. So that frees up money, which means that to get them back, they got to eat up that cap space that that they now have, but won't have for much longer. Sorry, I'm waiting on my free agents to pop up here. I'm trying to burrow through, but here we go. All right, so getting straight to unrestricted free agents. This website moves slow. Anyways, so the most important free agents to me, not in any particular order yet, are Andre Burakovsky, Nazem Kadri, Darcy Kemper, Josh Manson, Valerie Nichushkin, Andrew Cogliano, Darren Helm, and Jack Johnson. That was the other one. Jack Johnson, JJ. Those guys, a lot of them are vets, so you could probably get them for pretty low. Burakovsky was the most expensive out of those guys that I just named off. Last year, he made just under $5 million at $4.9 million. Nazem Kadri came up, him and Darcy Kemper came right behind him at $4.5 million last year. And then Josh Manson right after them at $4.1 million. And then it drops down to Nichushkin at $2.5 million. The guys that are going to have to get a raise. Nazem Kadri just had a career year. I say he gets a raise probably in the $5.5 million range, probably an extra $1 million a year. I say throw him a 3-year contract, $5.5 million a year, roughly about 16.5, 17 million over 3 years. I would be more than happy to throw that at Kadri if he's willing to take that haircut. Then Kemper probably gets a raise, and that's my problem. Like, I love Kemper, but I love Kemper at the $4.5 to $5 million range. I don't like the fact that him winning a cup is going to skyrocket his value. I think that this is going to be the first time that a team has had their starting goalie take them to the playoffs, take them to a Stanley Cup, and then be jettisoned right after having an impeccable year, a career year. But just after we watched Grubauer go because Sakic thought Landeskog was more valuable, and I don't think any of us can disagree with that thought process now. A lot of people last year thought, oh, Sakic's dumb. He let the goalie go that could have won, and we just saw exactly why he let Grubauer go, because Grubauer was a part of the system, was a product of the system more than Grubauer was the system. So I do believe Kemper kind of is one of those that's probably going to walk, because the one that needs the biggest raise is Valerie Nichushkin. That man has turned into what he was supposed to be after he was drafted by his previous teams. I do believe he could end up being an award-winning winger, both defensively and offensively. He brings the juice. He absolutely brings the juice in every way. And he was a steal of a deal at 2.5 million AAV, or annual average value, for the time that he's been here. So he is going to need a massive raise. I'm saying you're going to have to at least double that pay, if not more, to keep him. So that's why I believe I think you let Kemper go. You see what you got in Frankie. Go grab one of these other guys that has potential on the market as a goalie, because again, the Avalanche do not need a great goalie. They need a goalie that's good enough. Um, so they can afford to skimp. They can afford to skimp at the goalie position, as they just showed. They just won a goal. They just won a Stanley Cup with Pavel Francouz and Darcy Kemper. Again, nothing against those guys. They're good. They're very, very good. But they are not Vasilevsky. They are not Marc-Andre Fleury. They are not Patrick Waugh in any stretch of the imagination. So, how about we not spend a whole bunch on the goaltender when you have this depth? Use the extra money to make sure you bring all of this depth back, or at least as much as you can. Between, again, Burakovsky, Nichushkin, Kadri, Kemper, Cogs, Helm, and Johnson, somebody's going to have to go. I think the odd man out is, again, just like last year, the goaltender, because Sakic sees goaltenders in the way that the NFL views running backs. He just sees them as expendable, that you can get a good enough goalie later on in the draft, later on in free agency, for cheap in free agency. So I think that's the route that they take. I think the guys you have to bring back are, again, Kadri, Nichushkin, and Jack Johnson. Probably the three guys that absolutely have to come back. Berkey, great luxury. I'm not so sure he's a necessity, but I do love Berkey. I don't want to see him go, but I mean, out of those guys, again, I gotta have Kadri, I gotta have Nichushkin, I gotta have Johnson. Berkey would be great if possible. I love his youth. I love his shot. That that one timer is lethal. That wrister is lethal. The slap shot is lethal. So I mean, yes, Berkey brings a lot to the table, but those other guys, it's just between what they bring to the ice as well as in the locker room, they're invaluable. So those are the ones I say have to come back. There we go. All right. So that being the case, Avalanche are going to have to focus on free agency. Why? Because the draft, they're pretty bare bones. They don't have a first round pick, they don't have a second round pick, and they don't have a fourth round pick. All of those have been traded away, or they were either included in the Darcy Kemper, um, Pat Nimick, or shoot, Devon Taves. That's who it was. Sorry, Devon Taves trade. So Patrick Nemeth trade, Devon Taves trade, and the Kemper trade all took away the Avalanche's first round pick, 32 overall, and second round pick, 32 overall in that round, 64th overall in general, and then the number 32 pick in the fourth round, are all gone. So I'm going to say it again. I know y'all have been hearing me say it on multiple podcasts, because the same people own multiple teams that I do multiple podcasts on. So that's how it works. Is the fact that the F them picks mantra has officially permeated all rosters. Yes, you can talk about the Nuggets taking three guys in their draft, but when you look at the overall, yes, this year they took a lot. They took three guys in a very deep draft. But when you look at the previous 4 years, the next several years, the Nuggets don't have any first rounders, maybe a couple second rounders that they traded to get, not their own second rounders, but other teams' second rounders. So I do honestly believe the F them picks has taken full effect on every Cronky roster. So with that being the case, There are some, draftable players. We're not going to go too far into them. This was going to be more of Callie's thing, so I will leave it more for her when we get her on the show to go in depth on what type of late round targets the Avalanche may have. I just wanted to touch on and show y'all this is insane to see. The Cronkies have completely destroyed what owners have been saying in every sport for every franchise since I can ever remember, which was the fact that you must build through the draft. You got to stack those draft classes, as John Elway would say. You have to. The biggest thing with Mike Shanahan was hoarding draft assets, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it just goes down the line for ad nauseum, for ad hoc, forever. um, so the fact that the Cronkies are turning multiple sports on their heads. You've seen them do it in every single league they're in. The National Lacrosse League, the Major League Soccer, Major League or the National Football League, the National Hockey League, and the National Basketball Association. Every single one of them, they have shown that if you get the right vets, that's where a lot of people are going to get this twisted. We have copycat leagues. You are going to see a lot more teams try the F them picks mantra, and it's not going to work for them. They're going to be like, oh, see, they did something different. No, it's because you're an idiot and you didn't pay attention to the right things. You thought that just going out and getting any veteran would be able to give you the same results as the Rams, Rapids, etc. No. The key to it is going and finding the right vets, going and finding the right chemistry, the right locker room fits. It's not just about finding the most talent, it's finding the most talent that can work together cohesively. So, hopefully, no other teams figure it out, other than maybe the Broncos, because I don't really care whether the Rams win or not. But all the rest of those teams I care about because they're right here in Denver. So as long as it's working for them, I don't care. I just hope nobody else figures it out again, other than the Broncos, who again have the are one of the few teams that have the money to actually follow the blueprints of the Cronkies and their squads. So with all that being said, the big elephant in the room, could this become a dynasty? Yes, definitely could. And for many of the reasons why I just told you. The fact that the core is young and locked down. Not just young, not just a lockdown young core. No, a great generational locked down for multiple years core. Makar, McKinnon, Landeskog, Byram, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm not going to go down all the lists because we've done this a million times. Y'all know the names. So, yes, again, it can be a dynasty. That's reason number one. Number two, they have a front office that is willing to do whatever it takes to win. But from Sakic to Kroenke, etc., does not matter. Everybody in that building has one goal. They just achieved it, and it's not good enough. They want more. Sakic has multiples. McKinnon wants to have that legacy. Landeskog wants to have that legacy. They want more cups than Sakic and Waugh. And Sakic wants to give them more rings than him and Waugh. So, absolutely. Two reasons there. Third reason is the NHL is just set up in this way that parity is supposed to take effect and make sure that there are no dynasties. But with the fact that there is no real hard cap, there's so many loopholes in the cap that it's allowed teams like Tampa, like Colorado, etc., to build these super teams by manipulating the cap legally. I'm not saying they're doing anything they're not supposed to. Could they be? Who knows? We've all seen crazy stuff happen. Even here in Denver, we watched Mike Shanahan get nailed to the wall for salary cap shenanigans. So can it happen? And has it happened? Yes. But after watching what happened to Shanahan and company and what's happened to Bill Belichick and company for doing these little underhanded things, I don't think it happens again because they also made the repercussions worse after those teams did said things. So it's still, I mean, very viable reason. But is there also a possibility this could be one and done? Absolutely. This is a physical sport. We just got done talking about all the injuries that both teams, not just the Avalanche, but both teams were fighting through just to get that cup. So, yes, injuries are a real risk. Who knows what could happen? Game one, Lord forbid, something bad happens and a superstar goes down for the rest of their career. You never know. So, there's always the risk of injury. There's always the risk that the front office decides to be cheap all of a sudden. I don't think it's going to happen, but it can always happen. You never know what's going to happen with rich folk. Sometimes they feel frugal, sometimes they feel free willy nilly. So things can change on the slightest tide, whether something happens in the stock market or whatever else they're doing with their investments. You just never know. So the Cronkies at any point could tighten the purses. And that's completely up to them. That's their purse strings. We don't get to be mad about it. But as of right now, that's not the case, but it can be. So injuries, possibly tighten purses, and CBA's coming up again. Reason number 3, it could be that situations like this in the next CBA, they find out some way to create more parity and it ends up breaking up a lot of these super teams that are being built, like Tampa, Colorado, etc. So those are your 3 reasons why it could, 3 reasons why it can't. Let me double check, make sure I didn't miss any comments. Nope, we are good. And I think that's a pretty good place to end it for today. If y'all have any questions, anything, please always remember, right down at the bottom in the description that has all of our socials. Do not ever be afraid to put down a comment. I will see it. If nobody else sees it, I will see it. I will respond. Whether it's during the live or after, it does not matter. Always remember your questions, your thoughts, your opinions do matter to us if nobody else. So please always make sure that your thoughts are known down in the comments, down, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Make sure you go in there, leave your comments, leave your likes, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, all of the red buttons, launch all of the nukes, clear the path. That way we can pave a new road forward with this new media, giving you the content you deserve in the way that you deserve it. Right here with the Answers 42 Media Network on Sasquatch Says Podcast. I am your host, Dan Wetstein. Until next time, don't question the blue.